was a marketing, Gene DiFilippo, who was a famous athletic director at Boston College and other places, put on a little show up in Detroit, Michigan. So I attended and ran into Kevin. He and Jane had gone to Central Michigan at the time. It was the first of what I call the big marketing pieces you see these days. But ever since then, I'm not exaggerating, Kevin and I have seen each other probably at least once a year somewhere. It was at Atlanta Airport, it could have been in New York at a football game, but we always seem to just run into each other, and sometimes at an Irish bar. Shocker. Jane was one of these folks that, she got here, it was 14-1. No, 12 or 11-1. 10? 10-1. Who's counting? Male to female. You know what it is now at some of the schools? It's like 70% the other way. So things have changed quite a bit. But we thought we'd just have a little Q&A. Kevin's book is here. We've got some for sale over there, and he's happy to sign those, I think, still. So Kevin and Jane, why don't you come on up? 72 grad or 73 grad? So the first question is so Jane, with all these options out there, Liz says it's 10-1. That's probably a little more, maybe 11 or 12. But how'd you end up with this guy for a lifelong journey that started in Pumaville?
To be honest, it was the Holy Spirit.
I would better characterize it as a turnover. That's what I'm saying.
So how did you first meet him?
You didn't tell me these questions were coming.
You can always pause or pass or lie.
We first met, running into each other on campus quite a bit. He had actually transferred in, and I caught his eye a couple of times. For some reason, he was hanging around the Justin Lounge area. And we really, even if we'd seen each other, we really didn't start actually make contact to talk until one time in the cafeteria. Then I was in a play on campus, and it was
Ralph Capicelli?
Ralph.
Columbia players? Any Columbia players in here?
Columbia players.
All right.
You were, so, and then the big thing then, I think it started that year when we came in, was to go to, when it was late, and you wanted to party, we went to Mount Air.
Oh, God. And your coach slide in.
Well, I don't know if what the name was.
That was the name. Coach Snyder is Mount
Okay,
Air. Yep.
so we were sitting at the bar and ended up next to each other. He bought me one of those red sausages out of the jar. And it went great with the beer. And
That was our first dinner.
it was
what are your thoughts thinking back to your days, Kevin, when you first got here he's originally from New York, Amityville, and if you read the book, you'll find out that his high school academic career was shaky at best, and you end up going to a junior college down in Florida, and then you and several classmates came to St. Joe. How was it when you first got here?
You know, for us, in fact, there were like 10 of us that came from Jones College in Jacksonville, Florida, to St. Joe's, and we were euphoric to be here. It was like going to a real institution. The institution we were at was subpar is the kindest thing I could say. And
But they accepted you.
well, and there was nobody else at that point. I was a non-matriculant for most of high school. I'm the first high school grad in my family from Ireland, and so I was the first one to finish high school. And we really didn't have any sense of higher education. We didn't have any real sense of secondary school education in my immediate family. And if you'll be kind enough to read this crazy book, you'll see there's, once I said it earlier today, it just came out of my mouth, once you start being a truth teller, you can't stop. So the book is full of a lot of true stories about our family, and my family is pretty unique, I think. I think if you read that, I think you'll agree. But anyway, I was really underprepared to go to college, and without any options, and a bunch of kids from my town were going to Jones College in Jacksonville, Florida, and I just jumped in at the last second. I was on my way to the Marines at that point as a 17-year-old and not quite 18, and the rest is history. Then to your question, Bill, I transitioned to St. Joe and felt like I was at a really great institution, and I was so affirmed when I came here. We had just a great experience, and I think about the 53-year run that Jane and I have had together. The foundation, all of it was the Puma bill, the St. Joe experience, which for us was really pretty powerful.
You mentioned our Golden Puma from last year, Bill and Diana Jennings. You mentioned Bill Jennings in your book, and you and Jane both have fond memories of his uniqueness.
Yeah, we did. Respond there. And it's so great to have Cece here today, and the Jennings family. We were saying this earlier to Cece before the lunch. Jane and I would take a look at Bill and then Diane, and of course later Joe, but Diane, and they were the North Star for us. So we started dating and thought about having a family, and we were both we were a coaching duet in the early years at a large high school in Florida, in Newport Richey, Florida, and Jane coached absolutely everything. And I followed her coattails and did some coaching, and we had a lot of fun with it. But we thought we were the next iteration of Bill and Diane, and quite frankly, and they were our North Star.
They were
and
our
their family.
idols.
They were our idols. And we talk about that to this day. It's, we're no longer kids, by the way. We don't know a lot of you, because you wouldn't know of anybody that's this old. But we are 72 and 73 grads, so we're both 74 years old. But our foundation in life and our family and our professional career all came from St. Joseph's College. There's just no question about that. And anybody that's been with us, and Bill and Liz were with us at Notre Dame, but there's so many people in our background, they almost feel like they were Pumas because we talk so much about our experience here.
Bill, BJ? Any other thoughts on BJ?
Only the best thoughts ever. We enjoyed our time with them. We enjoyed our time with them so much on campus. Bill remembers us, me babysitting over there, very few times, but Cece was young at the time.
They had nine kids, right? 9 kids? With 2 twins?
2 sets of twins.
2 sets of twins?
And
They were my neighbor. Yeah. We were neighbors one time, and it was interesting experience to see I asked Cece about this earlier, I hope you don't mind if I say it, but in Halloween one time, one of the Jennings girls came to our house for Halloween candy, dressed as a pregnant nun. Hope that doesn't bother anybody. Molly, you okay with that one? So the other thing that we've got going is Kevin is being honored as an James L. Corbett Athletic Director of the Year. It's the greatest honor, and he's been to Loras and Maine, Tulane, Arizona State, Notre Dame, and Duke in his 43-year career. But he was always known to be the guy that was going to clean up a mess. I think each school you went to, they had a problem before you got there. Can you comment on that a little bit?
I became, for better or for worse, like the fixer. I don't even like that expression anymore with the current political environment. I don't care where you're at on that, but I don't want to be the fixer, but I was. And I won't take you through all those different storylines, but you can certainly follow them in the book. As I said, once you start telling the truth, there's no exit ramp. And so I kind of talked about all the places that I would find myself transitioning to, and I always had to kind of, take care of a problem that had occurred. And just very quickly, when I get to Tulane, there was a terrible point shaving situation, and they had dropped basketball, so I was at the point of reviving and reestablishing the basketball program. When I go to Arizona State, point shaving too. Unfortunately, a kid accepted a check for about $250K, and then cashed the check but didn't throw the game. And so the mud, and so the mud that cut the deal with the kid sued him in civil court. So I spent about a year with the FBI on that one. And then when I went to South Bend, they had went on major probation for the first time in their history, and so that became a concern about getting out of jail. And then when I went to Duke, I inherited the ass end of the lacrosse scandal, which was an enormous scandal. And so I became the fix-it guy, and I don't even unintentionally, but that's just by happenstance.
This is a quote by the current Vice President Athletic Director of Duke about Jane. Jane, with her warmth, general kindness, and overall badass attitude, became and still is a dear friend and confidant. She was always there with a listening ear or a word of encouragement, whether it was about the challenges of balancing work and personal life or just sharing stories over a good meal. I bet there's hundreds of people that were former staff members with all the years at Caseta. Can you comment on that?
I really don't want to talk about myself, but
Too late.
Nina, the current athletic director at Duke, is an amazing, smart woman, doing an incredible job. And I felt like the first time I met her, she was 22 years old, and she came in as an intern into Kevin's office at Notre Dame, and boy, did she grow up fast. And I don't know how long she's been with us now, but she came with Kevin from Notre Dame to Duke, and now she's the athletic director at Duke, and she's killing it across the country, and very well respected in the NCAA. So I'm very proud to have been involved with every student athlete and young administrator over the years. It's just been such a pleasure and a gift and thank God that I was able to be around them, to learn from them and enjoy them as much as possible.
Well, you're a gift to all of us. I want you to know that. We do have what people don't know about Kevin and Jane and their administrative role is how they work productively with diversity and with women promotions. And you've got a couple awards that I don't think people are aware of. Can you?
The awards are silly, but I'm quite frankly, I don't know why you people have us here today. We're very humbled and very honored to be here, but you must have ran out of prospects. But thank you very much for having us. I should have said that at the front end. And thank you, Bill, and the committee and everybody else. But we were very fortunate, and I tell people at times, I teach an MBA sport business class, and that's where the 43 years is. This is my 43rd year teaching the class, and I'm full-time at Duke in the business school, so Duke School of Business. And I tell my class all the time that you've got to do the right thing even when it's not popular and it's not easy, and you got to do the right thing when nobody's watching. And for me, the right thing was diversity, pluralism, quite frankly. And so we worked really hard at that. And we've been, again, really, really fortunate. We had a lot of good young kids come into our system, and they floated up the ranks and became ADs. And I know this is very self-absorbed, but then we had 39 become athletics directors. That's the number. And all kinds of schools all over the country. 39 different individuals probably impacted about 70 or 75 different universities, because a lot of them had multiple stops. But 30% of them were underrepresented and or female, and those ADs. And I'm more, to tell you the truth, and this is going to sound very Pollyanna, I'm more proud of that than any of the championships we won. We won a fair amount of championships, but I'm much more proud of that. And we always worked hard, because as student athlete, we needed to kind of secure people and grow leaders that were very much like the student athlete population, and that became our mantra. And so beyond the fixer, I'm the guy that's been characterized as way too liberal, and I love that, quite frankly.
Especially in Maine.
Yeah, in Maine, and even in
98% white.
There was a place in South Bend that thought I was a little liberal. Yeah, and but to tell you the truth, those are the things I'm most proud of.
How about your experience at Notre Dame? 7 years there, and Father Hesper, actually the legendary president there, gave one of our commencement speeches one of the years I was here in the 80s. Maybe Rodney or some of the other guys were here. And thoughts on Notre Dame and your experience?
you know, an Irish Catholic kid, and if you read the crazy book, and I hope some of you do, you'll see I was recruited to pre-seminary in 1963. So I've always had this interest in the cleric world and the rest of it. I said a little bit to Father at lunch here, but you know, going to Notre Dame was beyond my wildest imagination. There were 4 in the finals for that job, and I was the only non-Notre Dame grad at that point. And I didn't think there was a snowball's chance in hell I'd get selected. And I'm at Arizona State. Jane and I are very happy out there, and we think we're going to be there for the duration. We had turned down a couple of other opportunities, and we thought we were going to really settle in at Arizona State. And of course, then we got the opportunity to go to South Bend, and we're there for 8 years actually. Father Mark Malloy hired us, and to this day, he's like a brother to me. But Father Ted Hesberg, who was the president at Notre Dame that preceded Father Malloy, was there for 35 years as the president, and there was some issues at Notre Dame that I tried to identify carefully and thoughtfully, and not be a New York cynic. But you'll see them in the book if you get a chance to take a look at it. Yeah, right now I'm trying to hook you into the book. Yeah, there you go.
How about the future of, I think, of all the people I've chatted with here the last day or so, everybody's worried about intercollegiate athletics. The transfer portal, Bill, I'm not sure he'd want to coach in it the way it is now. The NIL monies. His son is the athletic director of the University of Tennessee, and on spring practice day, well, you tell the story.
Night before the quarterback up the ante, and I'm not playing in the game tomorrow. I mean, we're going to see a lot more of this. What's happened is not sustainable, and that's kind of the word of the day, the syntax. It's out of control. It's transfer portal. It's NIL, and I've never been, one that didn't want to fairly compensate student athletes and do everything we could do to make them successful, not just during their collegiate experience while they're matriculants, but when they leave the program. I've always felt an enormous responsibility for that, and really proud of the academic progress of every school I've been at. We've always been a clubhouse leader, getting kids to graduate, putting them in a position to be successful. So I'm not opposed to any of that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, what we have is an unregulated environment that is not sustainable and it's combustible. And at some point, I can take the gloves off and get really dark on you. There is no exit ramp. I mean, the lyrics in All Along the Watchtower by Bob Dylan say it well. As the Joker said to the thief, there's so much confusion, I can't get no relief. I mean, that's the world we're living in college athletics. It's a time bomb. And I also have a son that's the head basketball coach at Georgia. And we've had, we have 2 ADs in our family. And of course, our youngest daughter was an assistant AD at SMU. And so we've got a lot of currency here. And we got a lot of interest and future interest and family interest that I'm concerned about. So, and I stopped sleeping about 2 years ago. This is a nightmare where we're at. And I'm untethered now. I'm not at a university as an athletics director, so I've been incredibly outspoken, and I've written a lot of things, and then this book it kind of says it as well. And if I may digress a little further, we've taken all the practitioners out of the system, the decision-making system, and we've allowed people in what I call the toy store, that is New York cynicism, into the toy store to kind of create the rules and regulations which they don't exist. And it's combusting. We all the former practitioners and practitioners, they're not on any of the boards that are kind of creating tomorrow. And tomorrow's happening without any yesteryear insight or influence. And it's frightening where we're at. But it is combustible. It's not unlike the kid that doesn't play in the spring game, and now he's off to UCLA. I don't mean to pick on that kid, and there may be issues that I'm unaware of. But at the end of the day, I mean, you can't have kids going to 4 or 5 schools and thinking they're going to graduate. You're kidding yourself. They're not going to graduate. It's horrible. And in my day, in my younger self, I was always concerned about being perceived as somebody that wasn't interested in in seeing kids graduate and or exploiting kids and or that be part of a system that quite frankly that supported plantation athletics. That was the worst thing you could kind of get that reputation as an AD. And right now we're all the way back there. I mean, we're all the way back there. So stay tuned. It's going to get worse. It's going to get darker.
So, it's true, and I retired several years ago also, and the transfer portal with the graduation rates you touched on, I believe that's
Horrible.
it's not gonna go well.
No one's going to graduate. That Jane and our son, he's at the University of Georgia, and there are a lot of people that all these kids have agents now. It's permissible. Everything that's going on right now has been going on for about 70 years in different conferences when it wasn't legal. Now there are no rules, so anything and everything is legal. And so some of the representatives of these kids through the recruiting process are saying, whatever you do, don't talk academics, and don't talk about graduation, and don't talk about curriculums and majors, because we're not interested in that. If you start on all that stuff, you're going to get disinvited from the recruiting process. I mean, this has gone so counterintuitive to where it was 15 years ago or 10. It's really a mess. Go ahead.
As Kevin said last night, he spent last night, working in a portal, recruiting kids that are being recruited with more money from another school, you worked harder this past week than you did during the season. And
This is Mike.
No, I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
How about the Olympic sports?
Oh.
What's the future of Olympic sports? Track, field?
Well, Jane and I are recovering track and field coaches, so from way back, and I had a great experience here at St. Joe in track, and I had a really good high school coach, and Steve Kusick was my coach here. Yeah, and it was a good experience, and then we went to this large high school in Florida, and Jane and I kind of majored in track and field in terms of coaching. Jane was also a women's basketball coach as well, and then from there we went to Central Michigan University, and had a pretty healthy run as coaches and loved every second of it. And then I ended my coaching at Southeast Missouri State, which at that point was a track school in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. So I have this love for the Olympic sports, and I served on the Olympic Committee for 8 years, and loved every second of that. And that's a long way from Amityville, New York as a kid to be on the Olympic Committee. I was very proud of that, and had an opportunity to get to most of the games in the last 3 decades, quite frankly, with NBC representing Notre Dame, and of course then on the board for those 8 years. But I'm very worried about the Olympic sports, because as we start to overcommit resources to the high-profile media sports, football, men's basketball, and hopefully more to women's basketball as time moves on, we're going to take those resources someplace else. You can only spend $1 once, and that's what most people don't realize that are in the decision-making mechanism now. So you're just going to cannibalize donors, cannibalize resources, and the Olympic sports are going to get short-sheeted, Bill, and you know that.
And some tough days coming up, so hopefully the leadership will come forward. But we're grateful to have Kevin and Jane here, and Jonathan Nichols. His book comes out later this summer. You haven't read it first, read the second. And we have about 20 or so copies of this one. Please stay after. I'm sure he'll sign some books for you. I've read it 3 times. It's a lot of fun, and it's very, very intuitive. But God bless everybody. My one last thing to say is kind of touched on a little bit what Jonathan Nichols said in the back of your program, if you read it, is that at Seattle U at USF, where I was for 20-some years, a lot of students went downtown, right? Just up over the hill at USF, at Seattle U, you're downtown. At St. Joe, you went down the hall. You went down the hall. And that's what made St. Joe special. But take a minute to read that. Do you have something else to add?
John Nichols, how to get his book. How to get his book.
Oh, John, how do you read your book, Jonathan?
It'll be available on Amazon and wherever books are sold.
Wherever books are sold.
Cool.
Congratulations, and
Yeah.
best wishes with that. Yeah, I want to say this. Bill talked about me signing your book. I'm still that kid that didn't matriculate high school very well. I'm so honored to be with you, be part of this community, and I would be truly honored to sign your book if you'll sign my forehead.
All good. Thank you very much. Enjoy the day.
Thank